acquire land and facilities for a permanent Nakota homeless shelter in Rapid City, and the tribe support this long-term goal. And whereas in the interest with respect to the temporary homeless camp in Rapid City in trust land, the tribes have determined that it is necessary to, one, establish an intertribal oversight committee to manage the Rapid City Indian Trust lands. Two, enter to a temporary camp permit with NDA Collective for temporary homeless camp. Three, request funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Indian Health Service for the facilities for temporary homeless camp. And whereas in December 7th, 2020, the Land Committee of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council approved a motion to refer these matters to the Office of the President of the Oglala Sioux Tribe to review the matter and bring them back to the Tribal Council. And whereas on December 14th, 2021, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council approved Resolution 20-212 approving a temporary camp permit for the temporary homeless camp on the Rapid City Indian Trust lands owned by the tribes. And whereas on March 29th, 2021, the Land Committee of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council approved a motion to amend 20-212 to extend their permit by 5 years, to designate Tribal President Mr. Kevin Pillar, Mr. Michael Carlo, and Senior, and Mr. David Puyer as the Oglala Sioux Tribe representatives on the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee. Now, therefore, be resolved, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council takes the following actions to respect to the temporary homeless camp on the Rapid City and Trust lands identified in Appendix 1. Number 1, Intertribal Committee. The Oglala Sioux Tribe recommends a continual of the intertribal committees to be known as Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee to provide oversight and management of the Rapid City Indian Trust lands. A, the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee shall be composed of the President of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, the President of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe, and the Chairman of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribes, and 2 additional members from each tribe appointed by their respective tribal councils. B, the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee shall meet quarterly and coordinate with federal, state, and local governments officials as necessary and develop policies, recommendations, and financial requests by consensus, and bring these policies, recommendations, and financial requests back to the tribal councils of each tribe for ratification. C, to ensure appropriate risk management, each tribe will include the Rapid City and Trust lands in its general liability property insurance. Number 2, temporary camp permit. The Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee shall enter into and oversee a 5-year permit for the temporary homeless camp on the Rapid City Indian Trust lands. A draft temporary camp permit is attached herein as Appendix 2. Number A, the permit shall provide that NDA Collective shall make all necessary plans and precautions to safeguard the life, public health, and safety of the Lakota homeless people at the temporary homeless camp. B, the requirements for NDA Collective as permittee for the operation the temporary homeless camp on the Rapid City Indian Trust land shall include alcohol and drug-free camp. NDA Collective shall operate the Nakota homeless camp as an alcohol and drug-free facility. Possession and or use of alcohol and drugs on the premises shall be prohibited. Overall occupancy. Occupancy shall be limited to 200 temporary residents, campers. Guests shall be limited and by permission of the permittee with hours limited from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Compliance and applicable laws and regulations. NDA Collective shall operate the camp in compliance with applicable tribal laws and regulations. Maintenance of orderly, sanitary, and safe camp. NDA Collective shall maintain an orderly camp for Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota homeless. DNA Collective shall provide appropriate camp supervision and maintain public safety, health, sanitization, and general welfare of the camp. Public safety. Public law enforcement shall be provided by the Oglala Sioux tribe with the assistance of the BIA, and any offenses shall be enforced through the Oglala Sioux tribal courts on behalf of all three tribal governments. Trash collection and removal. Permittees shall arrange for the appropriate trash removal and collection and maintenance and maintain sanitary collection sites. Sanitary facilities. Permittees shall ensure that porta-johns shall be maintained in adequate quantity with regular cleaning and rotation to ensure public health and safety. Human waste shall be confined to porta potties to maintain public health. Portable water. Permittees shall ensure that adequate portable water is available to homeless camp residents for drinking, household use, cleaning, and sanitization. Electricity. In coordination with the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee, the permittee shall arrange for an electrical hookup for the camp to provide lighting, etc., and shall consult with professional electrician to avoid electrical failure and safety issues. Fire. Permittee shall confine any fires to communal stone fireplaces and or grills and or fire-rated wood stoves. Permittee shall consult with the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee concerning construction, placement of fireplaces and or grills. Campfire shall be fully extinguished. Cooking shall be limited to designated cooking areas, grills. Driveway. Permittee shall consult with the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee concerning the construction of a gravel driveway to provide necessary access to the camp. Construction of said driveway shall be at permittee's expense, unless otherwise agreed in writing by tribal governments. Motorized travel is limited to the driveway. Insurance and indemnity. Permittee shall maintain a general liability insurance policy with a minimum of $1 million per occurrence, $5 million aggregate coverage limits to cover camp activities and premises. Permittee shall hold harmless and indemnify the tribe governments for any loss suffered due to the camp. Protection, preservation of the land. Permittee shall be responsible to protect and preserve the land and environment. If any cultural properties are discovered, the cultural properties shall not be disturbed, and the permittee shall notify the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee. Animals. To protect human health and public safety, pets and other animals shall not be permitted at the campground. C. NDA Collective as permittee shall coordinate with the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee on any interactions with the federal, state, and local governments, with the understanding that the tribes themselves shall be responsible for managing necessary intertribal governmental interactions, and when necessary, the tribe shall invite NDA Collective and others. D. The permit to NDA Collective shall be governmental, charitable in nature, and is freely revocable for non-compliance and other reasons at the sole determination of the tribes. E, any organization or entity assisting NDA Collective with the operation and maintenance of the temporary homeless camp shall abide by permittee's supervision and operation of the camp, subject to the oversight of the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee, and shall countersign a copy of this agreement to indicate its assent thereto. Funding requests. NDA Collective estimates that 10 acres would suffice for the homeless camp, and there's a need for improvements to develop the campsite, including well for water, septic tank, stone fireplace and grill, public toilet and shower facility for campers, and driveway improvement. The tribe shall make a joint request for $50,000 in funding for these facilities to the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Health Service. Be it further resolved that the Tribal Council designates Tribal President Mr. Kevin Killer, Mr. Michael Carlos Sr., Mr. David Puya as the Oglala Sioux Tribes representatives on the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee, and be it further resolved that the Tribal Council authorizes and directs the Chief of Police of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Department of Public Safety to serve as a liaison for the Oglala Sioux Tribe to monitor the activities at the temporary homeless camp and provide daily status reports to the Office of the President. And be it further resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council calls upon the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the exercise of its trust responsibilities to the Oglala Sioux Tribe, Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, and Rosebud Sioux Tribe to provide fire suppression equipment and fire suppression services to the Rapid City Indian Lands Trust and Temporary Homeless Camp. Be it further resolved that the temporary camp permit shall provide that unattended minors shall not be permitted at the temporary homeless camp, and be it further resolved that nothing in this resolution shall constitute a waiver or relinquishment of any treaty rights, land rights, or sovereign authority of the Oglala Sioux Tribe to assist to any present or future transfer of any Rapid City Indian Trust lands or any other lands. Mr. Chairman, I talked to Mr. Gunn and I guess Thomasina wrote this resolution, but I do feel that there is a need that we put in here that they allowed to obtain right-of-ways for the electricity and the road. So if there's some way that those can be added in here by attorneys, I would make a motion to approve based on those being inserted.
Okay, thank you. Motion approved, second by Councilman Steele. Chairman Carlo made that motion. Go ahead, Secretary.
Mr. Carlo?
Yes.
I went and referred to an email that I did receive from Thomasina. And in there, she said that she sent the new revised resolution, and it says that I amended the resolution to include rights of way for roads and utilities. There's additional resolution paragraph, and I added road and utilities to the whereas paragraphs and the permit language in the appendix. And so from that, I see that from her document she sent me, there is a be it further resolved after the resolved that designates individuals, and I believe that's on page 6. Yes, on page 6, after the resolve that says that it designates the tribal president, Kevin Killer, that paragraph, she inserts, and be it further resolved that the Tribal Council authorizes and approves rights of ways for roads and utilities as needed and determined by the Tribal Rapid City Lands Committee and Indian Collective. She inserted that one. And she also inserted another paragraph regarding utilities. That would be after driveway. She included driveway and roads, and its utilities permitted shall consult with the Tribal Rapid City Indian Lands Committee concerning the utilities to provide necessary services to the camp. Construction of said utilities shall be at permittee's expense unless otherwise agreed in writing by the tribal governments. Permittee shall not allow third parties to use utility rights of ways.
I'd like to thank Ms. Robert for attending to those changes. And without further ado, a motion to approve.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Councilman, is that a second or question? Okay, second. Okay, so there's seconded by Councilman Steele and Councilman Hawkins. Council, is there any questions on this? Oh, sorry, Councilwoman.
I just got a text and it said there's items in there that say NDA and it should be,
NDA.
should not, collective NDA.
NDA or NDN?
NDN.
NDN, okay. NDN. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilman, or Chairman, I think kept saying NBA, so I was like, NBA. It's like, Councilwoman, did you, that was your, okay, thank you. Additional questions, Council, on this? Hearing or seeing none, it's been motioned, it's been seconded twice. Secretary, if you want to run the vote on this, thank you.
Wesley Hawkins Sr.
Yes.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Oh.
Cora Whitehorse.
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr.
Yes.
Gerald Canoria Jr. Gerald Canoia Jr. Austin Watkins Sr. Tyler Yellowboy. Wendell Youngman Jr. Ron DeBray.
Oh.
James Cross.
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo.
Yes.
George Streamer Jr.
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Richard Ironclad.
Yes.
David Poyer.
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Ha.
Jackie Sears. Michael Carlo Sr.
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.
Yes.
Garfield Still. Craig Dillon.
Yes.
Okay. Council, that passes 24-1 not voting. Thank you. Council, Chairman, is that all the items you have for from your committee? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. That's all the items he has. So we'll move on to Chairman Watkins. Are you prepared?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll go ahead with that. I'd like to have the secretary read it, Chairman, but also on the front part of it, it has executive committee in it. That has to be changed to council.
Okay, sounds good. So, so we have the first item, Secretary, if you want to read it, I think. Okay, thank you.
Chairman Watkins, I did review that resolution and we made the changes to reflect the tribal council resolution. So I'll read it as a resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Unincorporated Tribe Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving and supporting the MOU between Native Women's Care and the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office to participate in partnership with the requirements of the Primary Prenatal Care Innovations Grant. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 U.S.C. subsection 5123, and under Article 3 of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe's Law and Order Committee is a standing committee of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, and whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe Law and Order Committee did meet on the 7th day of March 2021 with a quorum present and did approve this resolution for presentation to the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council for their action. And whereas the Native Women's Health Care is administratively responsible for primary prenatal care grant. And whereas the principal nature of the primary prenatal care innovation grant is to establish linkage between the Rapid City OST Master Health Programs, NWHC, NHP, and CHR/CHW, and the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office. And whereas the goals and objectives of the grant are to provide services to pregnant substance abusing women who are within the auspices of the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office and who participate in their diversion programs, as well as pregnant substance abusing Native women who meet the criteria. And whereas Native Women's Healthcare is interested in this partnership to improve the future of the Native women who are involved in the Pennington County justice system and will pursue optimum care for the positive outcome of a healthy baby and completion of substance abuse treatment as required. And now, therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe does hereby support and approve the MOU between the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office and Native Women's Health Care. And be it further resolved that based on the recommendation of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Law and Order Committee on March 17th, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby approve the MOU attached hereto between the Native Women's Care and the Pennington County State's Attorney's Office to participate in partnership with the requirements of the Primary Prenatal Care Innovations Grant. And be it further resolved that the tribal president, or in his absence, the tribal vice president, is hereby authorized to execute the MOU on behalf of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Certification.
Motion.
Thank you, Chairman. Seconded it by Councilman Rodriguez. Motion was made by Councilman Watkins. Any discussion on this, council? Hearing or seeing none online or in person. Secretary, if you could run the vote, thank you.
Wesley Hawkins Sr.,
Yes.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Oh.
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr.,
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.,
Yes.
Austin Watkins Sr., Tyler Yellowboy,
Yes.
Wendell Youngman Jr.,
Yes.
Ron DeBrey,
Oh.
James Cross,
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr., George Dreamer Jr., Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Richard Ironclad,
Yes.
David Poyer,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Michael Carlo Sr.,
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.,
Yes.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Council, that passes 19 yes, 2 not voting. Thank you, council. Chairman Watkins, I think you have one more item coming up.
Yeah, we got the other item that, Councilman Carlo brought up, but Steve Gunn also supposed to have that amended on that. So is he on there?
Is Steve here right now? Thomasina, did you have your hand up?
Yes, President Killer, and good afternoon, everyone. I did talk to Steve. He's in a meeting. He's not available until 3 Mountain Time, if it can wait. If not, he did provide me with an update. He said that he has been working on amendments to the shelter in place ordinance to address the increased vaccine availability and new and changing CDC guidance. And those amendments are generally ready. I have the draft. He did not understand the request was to include school athletics. And he sent me some of the ordinances that are in place, and we looked at them together. It looks like there is a process in place in Ordinance 2103, which amended an earlier ordinance. This one provides for a process for educational institutions to prepare extracurricular activity plans and submit those to the Education Committee. And the Education Committee can either approve those or refer them on to Tribal Council. So I don't know if that process that's already in place by 2103 would fit here for your needs. But we wanted to point that out to you, that that's already in place in existing tribal law.
Chairman Watkins, I also talked to the task force about this, and they mentioned that we are in the risk level chart, and right now we're in yellow. So that is something to consider, because if we start to change that ordinance, because we move in and out of the shelter in place based on that risk level. So if we start to change that not based on the CDC recommendations, then it can start to be changed for all different events and things. So with that risk level chart being in the yellow, we are, there's certain recommendations in there, but it also doesn't make to have to amend the ordinance not based on CDC recommendations, if that makes sense. Because the CDC recommendations should guide that ordinance, really.
Vice Chair, can you take your mask off when you're talking, please?
Sure, I also have a lifesaver in my mouth, so. I don't know if it'll help.
If, in respect to what you're saying, though, I do believe that, with everything that's in place now, and, I think that even parents and guardians are ready to sign any kind of an affidavit or whatever that, they want to allow these kids to participate in these activities. And so, in order to accommodate, these kids that suffered the greatest through, this whole time period, I would like to see us amend or, make whatever changes that we can to accommodate these kids in this, and I'm talking about kids across the reservation. I'm not just talking about kids in certain areas. We do have involvement from children and, sports in all of our districts, so, I want to afford these kids, the ability that they can go practice and participate in that tournament. So, I'd like to see us address that. And if we have to take it back to Education Committee to bring it back, these kids are knocking on our door wanting an answer. So, I want to be there for them.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Or go ahead, Councilman DeBerry.
Thank you, Chair, Council. During our meeting on Monday, we discussed this with the task force along with Rayanne Bredell. And the discussion was that because we're in the yellow, we couldn't make recommendations to have this, changed. But just because we're in the yellow doesn't mean we're out of the woods on the COVID. It only means that the rating is at yellow. We could drop and go back into a red. And if we did make changes and amend this shelter in place, if we did get a spike, we can bring it back. So it's not something that we, if we make amendments to it, and if it doesn't work out, we can always go back to the original shelter in place.
That's correct, Councilman DeBrey. The risk level chart just helps us to assess the risk, right? So that we are still in a pandemic, so there's still risk. Right now we're in the yellow, so some of those things are let up. But if we go into the red, those shelter in place would be there and ready to go back into. So it just allows us to be still aware that we are in a pandemic but still do things when our risk level is lower. And other tribes and other cities have these as well. Cheyenne River shared theirs with us, so they have that as well. But also just to be aware too, if we are traveling to other places, and remember that they also have a risk level too, so they may actually, if they have a spike, they may go in their risk level and may not have the event at the same time too. So, there's all these other factors going on as well.
I do believe that, this tournament that they're going to in Colorado, they have a lot of rules in place in Colorado too. So I think that, the procedural that we would be following going down there is going to be one that Colorado enforces too. So it's not like we're sending our kids out into the bush without protection. So, I do believe that, the protections are in place in Colorado too.
Go ahead. You want to go, Vice President? And Councilman, I'm going to say it's not like we're sending kids to South Dakota. So, no, I was kidding.
I can pull up the risk level right now. Right now, since we're in the risk level yellow, level yellow, there's gatherings less than 50 with safety measures. Like we can have that. So I can pull it up so we can look at it. But, with that risk level, risk alert level, they have different things we can do here on the reds for sure.
So we could amend that today with the idea that if the rate went higher, then we could change it back, or what was your recommendation?
Well, you guys already approved this risk alert level chart. And so now we're just trying to figure out how to distribute it and get it out and update. And it was at 14 days. We moved it from 21 to 14 days because we know that, things are changing and people are getting vaccinated, things like that. So it is changing, but right now we're at a yellow. So I don't know if you necessarily would need to amend, and Thomasina, please feel free to jump in on this, amend that ordinance with the, does that help? With the risk alert level chart in place, because we're in yellow right now. So there can be gatherings less than 50 with safety measures. Schools can be in person with hybrid plan and follow tribal health orders regarding education activities, telework and hybrid workplace, business and government open with a plan, so those recommendations are in these different risk alert pieces. So.
Councilman Steele.
Well, we're talking about this ordinance like there's some type of enforcement. I mean, this ordinance hasn't changed, but yet I mean, you look at Rapid City in the last 3 weekends, it was packed. Everybody, every hotel was packed. And we're sitting here talking about amending an ordinance that has no enforcement. Just don't make no sense to me.
Enforcement is a piece of it. I do think there are some people who are following it though, and those people have really helped us to prevent large spread. So the fact that it's in place, some people do respect that and follow that. So, I mean, having it is something.
I'm just saying you're 5% to the other 95% that don't follow it. That's a big number, and a lot of, I mean, who we fooling? I mean, we see it all over, and maybe there are 5% of the people that are following this shelter-in-place ordinance, but there's a greater number of people that ain't. And I think our people are doing a good job themselves by wearing masks. I mean, if you go to Rapid City, the only people you see with masks on are Native people, people of color. They're all wearing masks. You don't see the non-natives now, wearing a mask. I mean, I think our people are doing a good job taking care of themselves. You see them social distancing. I mean, I'm just saying, man, we're sitting here arguing over and debating over an ordinance that's not even enforced by anybody. We could say we are, but really we're not. Who are we fooling?
I mean, I think we've done a good job. You're right? And in the beginning, when this all happened, we needed something, and laws were something to let people know this is important. This is a real thing. As far as if they were enforced or not, I think it got the point across. I think having a tribe-wide set of standards of how to protect each other, people do listen to you guys. They do listen to the laws. If they're not enforced, that's another thing. But if the law's there, then we have something to go off of.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Yellowboy, and then Councilman Poyer.
Thank you, Chair. That's the same thing I'm hearing. We have a shelter-in-place ordinance, but we've amended it so many times. What is left? What part of that ordinance is still being followed? We have membership that go off reservation, not only to Rapid City. There's several people that I know that have gone to Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico. We've done good. I'll give us that much. We've done good. We can go to Rapid City and we can see our membership wearing masks. We can see the non-members not wearing masks, not socially distancing and whatnot. But my question is, what do we have left of the shelter-in-place ordinance? What is there left to follow? We've amended it. We've amended it time and time again. And it comes down to enforcement. When we had that education committee meeting on Monday, a school administrator said, who's holding who accountable? That's what she wanted to know. Who's being accountable to this shelter-in-place ordinance? We had a school who just totally disregarded the shelter-in-place ordinance, totally disregarded the health ordinance. Yet, there was nothing done to them. There was no accountability, but yet we hold our tribal schools more accountable than we do to a county school. We make our tribal schools held to a higher standard than we did to that county school. So my question is, what is there left of this shelter-in-place ordinance? What is left to enforce?
Councilman Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'm listening to thank you to everybody and good afternoon. I'm in compliance and concurrence with my constituent Taylor over there. I mean, we haven't held anybody accountable for anything to be sitting here and telling anybody what they can do and cannot do. show me one citation, one incident of anything that we've held anybody accountable for anything. Because we haven't. All we got is a piece of paper with a bunch of writing, and you're gonna need to do this, that, and the other thing. And people have listened and some haven't. But like you said with the one school, did we hold them responsible for anything? Are we gonna hold them responsible for anything? No, we haven't. We're probably not going to. We're gonna sit here and complain about it for the next year and a half. But nothing's being done to anybody on anything when it comes to compliance of the shelter in place. So I don't see how we can sit there and tell people what they can and cannot do if there's no consequence for their action. Now, I'm all about black and white, don't get me wrong, I know that. I've done it for years, black and white. But it annoys me because we're not doing anything. All we do is talk. Literally. All we do. And nothing's done to anybody about anything. So, like Tyler was saying, what more is there to do? I say let them do what they're going to do and enjoy themselves and have fun. We ain't stopped anybody else from doing it. Thank you.
Councilman Puyo, did you have something? Or?
Chair, we can sit here and talk all day about, rest of the day about this. You know, if we're not going to follow what we've always done, then we're wasting our time. Before we can amend the ordinance, we need to have an ordinance in front of us to act on. And we don't have nothing. I mean, I didn't get anything if we do. So we're just wasting our time, spinning our wheels. I mean, when we first started out, they said, we're waiting for some of the attorneys to get us the ordinance. We still don't have the ordinance, so it wasn't supposed to come on the floor. So that's the way I look at it. We're just spinning our wheels, taking up airtime.
Thank you, Councilman. Like I said, we have the risk alert level. We're in the yellow. People can gather with 50 or less. So if you guys want to work on the shelter in place that is, you know, and amend it, that's fine. But right now we're in a risk level yellow where people can meet with 50 or less. So if they're going to meet with 50 or less to practice, they can, right? With the safety measures in place. So that's the other piece, is that risk alert level. Also, something to be mindful of is those new variants, and there is a rise in the nation right now with cases. Our sister tribe, Sister Wapton, has the California case right now, or California variant. So those are something else to keep in mind. But if you guys want to amend that, that's up to you guys. That's the law. But you guys also did accept the risk alert level chart, which I'll say it again, we're in yellow. So we can do different things with that risk alert, not just have the, you know, be in the shelter in place. Yes, Councilwoman?
You know, I think that's why this council is tired. I think we're spinning our wheels here, according to Mr. Puyer. But the question I had is, you know, we did adopt that chart. So you're telling us we're at a yellow level, but I think in the ordinance, it also stated, maybe Cora could, you know, jump in here, but, you know, in case, if we did amend the ordinance, it did state that in case the cases start rising, did we leave that up to the COVID task force and the president to act, to reinstate it right away? Do you remember that? That they can do that? If we see, let's say, it started rising, the cases, then the task force and president could act on it to put it back in place. Maybe she could answer that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilwoman. And I am aware of that, but I do really consult with the vice president because she is in you know, we work in partnership with the COVID task force, and you know, just the way that the previous task force was structured, there was a lot of, it was tough, you know, the way that it was structured to get information out, disseminate it properly, all this kind of stuff. You know, I think the vice president has a much better background in health than I do. So it's just deferring to that outlet. But I'm aware of that. And I mean, I think we're prepared. But again, my biggest concern with issuing any kind of further, you know, say, shelter in place, and there's another extension of that called lockdown. But it's not having the resources to, you know, keep people in one place. You know, that's one of my biggest concerns. So that's something that, you know, I'll visit with the vice president about, but, Councilwoman, and then I think Councilman Watkins. So. Councilman Puyer, did you get to go yet or no? Oh, you did, okay, good. So Councilwoman, go ahead.
Okay, we had this huge discussion at a council meeting a while back where students and parents came in and they wanted to do the sports. So we did amend the shelter in place to allow schools to make that decision. So wouldn't this fall under that? And so what would be the difference between allowing them to do the practice and play the games with school support and now? I mean, isn't it the same thing?
Go ahead, Councilman.
You know, all the students and the coaches were the ones that came to me with this, and they thought that it needed to be amended, but, you know, since we're at what level yellow, you know, it clearly states in there, I guess, that activities of 50 or more can take place. So I guess there's no sense in debating it anymore, and that they are allowed to do this. So I hope they're all listening out there and, you know, go to Colorado, kick some ass, and we appreciate your time here, Council, and let's move on.
Okay, Councilman Watkins.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on. I was talking to the chairman of education, and yeah, we did make that decision back in council where the schools and parents make their decision. I think that's up to them to go ahead and let them go through. And, you know, we're not just spinning our wheels. I know Davey over there needs his beauty sleep, and he needs a lot. I know that. So we'll move on.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Watkins. Appreciate it. And Chairman Watkins, do you have, that's your last item? Chairman Watkins, you don't have no more items from?
Yeah, that's
okay. Thank you. Okay, Councilman Steele, go ahead.
You know, in comparison, you know, saying that we follow the shelter in place ordinance is like saying we're a dry reservation and nobody drinks. But real quick, I want to entertain a motion, since we're with law and order, that we set aside Tuesday afternoon for a council meeting to do the interviews and selections of the judges, the prosecutors, and the chief of police, because those terms are set to expire in April. So I think we should set that day aside for that process, or Monday.
Why don't we just go ahead and have it on Wednesday? That's our law and order.
Because I know some people are not going to be around, so we need to do it earlier in the week.
Monday will work then.
That'll be my motion, Chairman, to set aside Monday.
I'll second that, Chairman.
So what day, would that be a special?
That'll be a special.
So do we need
Question.
Has all the applicants and stuff, so we'll just bring them all in.
Okay. Okay, so we got a motion and a second.
Question.
And oh yeah, hold on, Councilwoman. So motion second to, that was on Monday, the 5th? Okay, let me double check, because I might not be here. I'm trying to double check my schedule, so. But the vice chair could be here too, so.
So, Chairman, just to clarify, the HR did do they put out the notice, And, I was reading something. And then, she does have a list of eligible people that qualified for each position for the judge, the prosecutors, and the, chief of police. So what I'm requesting is just that the eligible ones, the names that she has come forward.
Okay,
Because that's what we requested of her.
okay, thank you. Okay, so there's a motion and second. So I got Councilwoman Sears and Councilwoman Spotted Bear. So go ahead, Councilwoman Sears.
Is Monday a holiday because Easter Sunday?
Councilwoman, I'm giving I think Friday off, half day for that. So, but I do recognize that in my calendar, it was a holiday in my Apple calendar, so. Do you have a further question, Councilwoman Sears?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Spotted Bear?
Madam Secretary, can you verify the dates that I requested to be set aside for the Child Protection Code?
Yes, you did request the 9th and 10th of April to be set aside to meet in your law and order working session.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that didn't conflict.
Thank you. Councilman.
Mr. Chair, with all due respect, there's a motion on the floor, so can we just run the motion, please? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. It's good. It's called, you got to call the question, Councilman. Okay, so I guess with no other questions. So again, does that require 2/3? You have to get signatures for that meeting or they can vote on it here? Okay, got it. Okay, good deal. Okay.
And then we're gonna need HR to let those individuals know that to notify them that the meeting will be on Monday for the interview.
Okay, so we'll get started on that. And if we'll figure it out. So go ahead, Secretary, just run that vote.
Okay, so the motion is to set a special session on Monday, April 5th, to select the judges, prosecutor, and chief of police.
Chairman, before we run the vote, Ryan wants us to have it on Tuesday, so can we change it to Tuesday?
Let me, hold on, I gotta check my schedule, so.
He plans on getting a whole bunch of bunnies and chickens, so he's gotta feed them on Monday.
Okay. So we'll move it to the 6th then, so that's fine. Okay, Chairman Watkins, is it okay if we do it on the 7th? Because that's the Law and Order Committee day, and we could just take care of it there, so. Why not the 7th, Council?
Who's all gonna be present, Chairman, on that day? Are we gonna have a quorum?
We're trying to determine that now, so can everybody attend on the 6th? Yeah, Tuesday? Okay, I think we got a good enough consensus, so go ahead and we'll just keep it for the 6th, and then.
Wesley Hawkins Sr. Blaine Little Thunder.
Whoa.
Cora Whitehorse.
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr.
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.
Yes.
Austin Watkins Sr. Tyler Yellowboy. Wendell Youngman Jr. Ron DeBrey,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Richard Ironclad,
Yes.
David Poyer,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Michael Carlo Sr.,
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.,
Oh.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Council, that passes 24-0 against. Thank you, council. So we're done with law and order. Chairwoman Whitehorse, we have your items.
Thank you. I don't think my ordinance and resolution were printed out, so I'm just going to read them off the email. The first one is on the indirect cost budget. I was late, so that's probably why I didn't get it. But the first one is on the indirect cost budget. Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council approving the 2021 indirect cost budget that's supposed to have cost in there of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14th, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 and under Article 3 of the Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas Article 4, Section 1F of the Constitution of the Oglala Sioux Tribe authorizes the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council to manage all economic affairs and enterprises of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And Article 4, Section 1W authorizes the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council to adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its membership. And whereas Article 4, Section 1T of the Constitution gives the Tribal Council the power to delegate its enumerated powers to subordinate boards or officers, reserving the right to review their actions taken by virtue of such delegated power. And whereas the Finance Committee is a standing committee of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council and has been delegated the power to oversee matters related to finance on behalf of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, including budgetary matters. And whereas by motion and vote on March 23rd, 2021, the Finance Committee approved the 2021 indirect cost budget of the Oglala Sioux Tribe in the amount of $12,843,565 to be forwarded to the Tribal Council for consideration and approval. And whereas the Tribal Council has reviewed the proposed 2021 indirect cost budget and hereby agrees with the foregoing recommendation of the Finance Committee to adopt such budget. Now, therefore be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby adopts and approves the 2021 indirect cost budget of the Oglala Sioux Tribe in the amount of $12,843,565 as set forth in the document attached hereto. Certification. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, second. Is that a second, Councilman? Second? Okay, second by Councilman Poyer. And wait, was it a second or is that a question? Okay, well, you put your hand up as I called for a second, so you put your hand up, so I didn't see the second, so I was assuming it was going to be a second. So so go ahead, Councilwoman. So Councilwoman Carlo seconded it. I was like, now you can do the questions, Councilwoman. So go ahead.
Cora, can some of these positions are at the 1171, can we get them a $50 or $1 raise? Some of them are cap office workers. Some of our security is at 1171. That's what day laborers are getting. So can we, I'd like to see if we can raise them a little bit anyway.
Davia, I think that's a good idea. And I think that for increases, I think we should take that back to finance just to discuss the increases for some of these, because we have to go by the qualifications and the salary scale. So at this time, this is what the finance committee passed, but I think the increases can be reviewed further, and this budget can be amended at a later time.
Okay, as long as we understand it, we're gonna take it back for amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Sears?
Yes, mine is the same question, but not the like what Davies was. My concern is, some of the salaries are way above the salary scale. So, how do we monitor that? Because we hold our programs and people accountable, and they can't exceed the salary scale. So, that's my question. Do they follow the salary scale of the tribe?
Every employee that is under, especially indirect cost, it follows the salary scale. Most of the ones with larger salaries are because they have been in those positions for several years. And we do have an ordinance that states that they do receive a 3.5 increase for every year. So that's the reason that most of them or a lot of them are much higher because of that.
Well, I realize that, but when I look at programs, theirs aren't that high. So, I know that it's not the same practice. So I believe that, I'd like to find out, are they actually going by the scale, or they just, don't have to go by it? Because I know programs do. And I know a lot of our directors are educated and have experience and have been there for years and had the 3.5 increases and are nowhere near that level. So that's just a concern of mine. So maybe in the future at a finance meeting, we can review those or something. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman. Additional questions, Council? Hearing none or seeing none online.
Question.
I'm sorry.
Question.
Okay, yeah,
Mr.
sorry,
Chair.
can't see you, Councilwoman. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of these positions were discussed in our finance meeting, and that's why it was approved and forwarded to tribal council for approval today. And as looking at the indirect cost budget, I think that a lot of this are the positions are under the financial accounting office up in the tribal office. And I think that what has been happening is that every year we're passing the indirect cost budget. And I think that at the time we met on this, I think we should have addressed all of that. We should address the pay rates and increasing the district service center staff. And I think that those should have all been discussed before we brought it here. But apparently, the finance committee, which I also sit on, this was the budget that we approved that was presented. We did work on it, and now it's here in front of us. So I think we just need to run the motion and to approve it. And I think that any other questions that everyone else has can attend the finance committee meeting in the future to address some of these pay rates.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Additional questions, Council? Okay. Hearing or seeing none online or in person. Secretary, if you could run the vote, please. Thank you.
Wesley Hawkins Sr.,
Good.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Oh.
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.,
Yes.
Austin Watkins Senior, Tyler Yellowboy,
Yes.
Wendell Youngman Jr.,
Yes.
Ron DeBrey,
Oh,
James Cross,
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Richard Ironclad,
Yes.
David Poyer,
yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Yeah.
Michael Carlo Senior,
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.,
Yes.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Yes.
Council, that motion passes 24, one against, motion passes. Thank you, Chairwoman Whitehorse, for your leadership. Do you have any other items?
Yeah, I have the comments that the attorneys prepared, but it was in everyone's email. Do you want me to read it aloud or do you just, okay, I'll make a motion to approve the comments to have Jennifer Hughes submit them today.
Second.
There's a motion made and seconded by Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston to approve the comments for the ARP or ARA, American Recovery Act.
I do have one suggestion
Yeah,
though.
go ahead.
There is a section in here on the infrastructure and a section specifically on the water and potable water delivery. I think that's where we should put a request to include Eagle Nest District East delivery or line, however you want to put that. And let me find the section number.
Okay.
It's section 4. Maybe section 3 and 4 of the rural water supply system portion.
Okay, so we'll add that in, so. And I'll text Jennifer as soon as we pass this, because I know it's due today. Hopefully it's not by East Coast time. So council, is there further discussion on this? Hearing or seeing none online or in person, Secretary, if you could run the vote, thank you.
Wesley Hawkins Senior,
Yes.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Oh,
Cora Whitehorse,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle,
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.,
Yes.
Austin Watkins Senior, Tyler Yellowboy,
Yep.
Wendell Youngman Jr.,
Yes.
Ron DeBrey,
oh,
James Cross,
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Richard Ironclad,
Yes.
David Poyer,
yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Michael Carlo Senior,
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.,
Yes.
Garfield Still, Craig Dillon,
Yes.
Council, that motion passes 24, one out voting. Thank you, council. Chairwoman Whitehorse, is all the items you have for your committee?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. Appreciate it. So Chairman DeBrey, I know you have one item, so you could do that. And then two. Oh, you got two, sorry about that. Oh, you got two items. So go ahead, Chairman DeBrey.
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead, Chairman.
Thank you, Chair, Council. First one on the agenda was regarding the quorum for the Education Committee. The resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Resolution. I don't know if I can read this. Can I get the secretary to read it? As I'm gonna probably start coughing here.
The secretary will read it. Thank you, Chairman.
Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the Education Standing Committee establishment of a quorum of 5 for the remainder of 2020 to 2022. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 U.S.C. subsection 5123. And under Article 3 of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas Article 4, Sections 1T and U of the Constitution gives the Tribal Council the power to delegate its enumerated powers and to regulate the procedure of Tribal Council governance. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council has established its standing committees in Ordinance Number 19-22, the Standing Committee Ordinance of 2019, as amended to assist in the governance of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas Section 6 of the Standing Committee Ordinance of 2019 states, a standing committee may increase or decrease the simple majority requirements established by this ordinance by Tribal Council resolution. However, in no instance may a standing committee decrease its quorum requirement to less than 5. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe Education Standing Committee met on February 22nd, 2021 and decided that 5 persons shall meet the quorum requirement for meetings of the Education Standing Committee and forward this information to Tribal Council for approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the Education Standing Committee establishment of a quorum of 5 persons for its meetings for the remainder of 2022. Certification.
Motion.
Motion and seconded by Councilman Jumping Eagle. Council, is there any further questions on this? Hearing or seeing none, online or in person, Secretary, if you'd run the vote, thank you.
Wesley Hopkins Sr.
Yes.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Oh.
Cora Whitehorse.
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr.
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.
Yes.
Austin Watkins Sr. Tyler Yellowboy.
Yep.
Wendell Youngman Jr.
Yes.
Ron DeBrey.
Oh.
James Cross.
Yes.
Ella John Carlos.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Richard Ironcloud.
Yes.
David Poyer.
No.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston. Jackie Sears. Michael Carlos Sr.
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.
Yes.
Garfield Still.
Yeah.
Craig Dillon.
Yes.
Council, that passes 24-1 no. Thank you, Council. Appreciate it. Go ahead, fifth member.
Good afternoon, listening. Sergeant Arms here at Ironclad. Good afternoon, Council and listeners there. I just want to do a friendly reminder, Council, men and women, when they're reading the ordinance here, or when our secretary is reading, if you have to have a conversation going, could you take it out of the circle? because there's other people that are listening, and I think it would be best if you just take your conversation out of the circle so that, you know, because there are people that are taking the time to read this for us, so we'd like to hear it. I just wanted to give that friendly reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant at Arms. We should. Okay, so go ahead, Chairman DeBrey, your second item.
Thank you, Council. My second resolution is a resolution regarding the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe supporting regulatory waivers for all Bureau of Indian Education funded schools on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation for certain Title 25 requirements for the 2020-2021 school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and support regulatory waivers for other schools on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Could I get Secretary to read the rest?
Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 U.S.C. subsection 5123, and under Article 3 of the Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Whereas Article 4, Sections 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W empowers the Tribal Council to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and preserve the property of the tribe, adopt laws governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its membership. And whereas the Tribal Council adopted Resolution number 20-70, affirming President Bear Runner's declaration of a state of emergency on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation due to the novel coronavirus named SARS-CoV-2 and the disease it causes, coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. And whereas in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and risks posed to the health and general welfare of residents of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, as well as those who live nearby and work on the reservation, on March 26, 2020, the Tribal Council adopted Ordinance number 20-18, Shelter in Place, in order to help decrease the spread of infection within the boundaries of the reservation, and amended by Ordinance number 20-29. And whereas Section 6 prohibits all public and private gatherings of any number of people occurring outside a household or living unit except expressly permitted therein. And whereas Section 8F allows for educational institutes to operate for purposes of facilitating distance learning or performing essential functions, provided that social distancing of 6 feet per person is maintained to the greater extent possible. And whereas the Tribal Council also took action to order the closure of in-person classes and extended that closure through the end of the school year. And whereas due to the COVID-19 pandemic, school closures and shelter-in-place ordinance, Bureau of Indian Education funded schools will be unable to meet certain Title 25 regulatory requirements applicable to school year 2020-2021. And whereas other non-BIA funded schools on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation that predominantly serve Oglala Sioux Tribe students may not be able to meet their regulatory requirements. And whereas failure to meet such regulatory requirements would usually reduce Indian School Equalization Program, ISEP, funding provided for the following school year and severely impact the quality of education provided to students at the BIE funded schools. And whereas due to the extraordinary circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Department of Interior Assistant Secretary, Indian Affairs, granted a waiver for school year 2019-2020. And whereas the continued circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic make it likely that the BIA funded schools will be unable to meet certain Title 25 regulatory requirements applicable to school year 2020-2021. And whereas the Department of the Interior, AS-IA, issued a letter to school leaders on June 25th, 2020, notifying schools of the waiver application requirements for the school year 2020 to 2021. And whereas it is imperative that all of the BIE funded schools on the reservation be granted such regulatory waiver for the school year 2020 to 2021. And whereas by motion and vote on March 29, 2021, the Education Committee approves supporting all BIE funded schools on the reservation in their regulatory waiver request and approved other non-BIE funded schools in their regulatory waivers and voted to forward this resolution to the Tribal Council for review and approval. And whereas the Tribal Council agrees with the foregoing recommendation of the Education Committee and has determined that it is in the best interest of the Oglala Sioux Tribe to adopt this resolution supporting regulatory waivers for all BIE funded schools and non-BIE funded schools on the reservation. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe hereby states its support of regulatory waivers for all Bureau of Indian Education funded schools on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in their request for regulatory waivers of certain 25 regulatory requirements for 2020 to 2021 school year due to the COVID-19 pandemic and support regulatory waivers for other schools on the reservation. And be it further resolved that the Secretary is hereby directed to send a copy of this resolution to all Bureau of Indian Education funded schools on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation and non-BIE funded schools on the reservation. Certification.
Motion, thank you.
Now, motion, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear and Councilman Hopkins. Additional questions, Council, on this? Seeing none in person or online. Secretary, if you could run the vote, thank you.
Wesley Hopkins Sr.
Yes.
Blaine Little Thunder.
Oh.
Cora Whitehorse.
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Sr.
Yes.
Gerald Canoyer Jr.
Yes.
Austin Watkins Sr. Tyler Yellowboy.
Yep.
Wendell Youngman Jr.
Yes.
Ron DeBrey.
Oh,
James Cross.
Yes.
Ella Giancarlo.
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.
Yes.
Lillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Richard Ironclaw.
Yes.
David Poyer.
yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston.
Ha.
Jackie Sears.
Uh-huh.
Michael Carlos Sr.
Yes.
Bernardo Rodriguez Jr.
Yes.
Garfield Still. Craig Dillon.
Yes.
Garfield Still.
Council, that passes 24, one not voting. Thank you, Council, for that. Chairman DeBrey, is that all the items you have? Okay, thank you, Chairman. So that concludes the all the regular council items that we had and 2/3 items. So we'll move on. Council, do we want to break? Do a 10-minute break? Okay, so we'll do a 10-minute break. And then I know that I have a few people here that's going to present under the president's report, and I told them 3 minutes. And then we also have passed something out regarding Dewey Bedrock. And so we have an attorney that wants to present on that. That's going to be a little bit more extensive content, but I'll try to keep them under 5 minutes. That'll be under my report, but it's a significant issue. And then we'll go to the vice president, the treasurer, and I think there's one more report. And I didn't see the woman from the secretary report. Sorry, secretary. And then there was a woman here from the BIA, the new director, but I don't know where she went. So we're gonna give her the floor. I think she left. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah. So let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes. Thank you, Council.